Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, K7CYM. Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that take to the airways with fast scan television. We have a repeater located up on Cougar Mountain. We transmit on 70 centimeters. It's a crossband repeater and spits out images at 1.2 gigahertz. To find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, Google WW7ATS. Google WW7ATS. There, it'll take you to our homepage where you'll see the frequencies we transmit on and a little bit of information about our club. Also on our homepage is a link to take you to YouTube, where we stream our nets held Wednesdays and Saturdays between 8 and 9 o'clock. Also, we'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR's repeater, known as the 08 machine, 147.08, with a tone of 103.5 for our voice transmissions during our net. So with that, I'll pause in case anybody has emergency traffic or needs to make a contact before the net gets fully underway. Again, this is Dave, KD7CYM. Again, taking check-ins for the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. So far checked in is Jim, N7QO, K7ITX Richard, and myself, Dave, KD7CYM. If there's anybody else that would like to check in.
There's just, what, 4 of us tonight?
Able to copy poor reception. Try again.
Dave, you're really low volume tonight too. This is James, WW7N. You have me?
7N, right, I got you. And it seems like everybody out is kind of out so far. Richard, K7ITX, and myself are the only ones reporting in for the net. But we'll open it up in case anybody else would like to join. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net.
Gary's saying he's an in and out.
Got Gary in and out. We've got Lee in and out. We got Ron in and out. Is there anybody else that's in?
A reminder to everyone, you really have to push the microphone button and really give it a second before you start talking.
Okay, again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. We'll get it underway. Started with Richard, K7ITX.
Well, yeah, we are kind of sparsely populated tonight, but I see 3 on the screen, and oh heck, I might as well put myself on the big picture here, except all of a sudden I'm spaced out trying to remember how to do this. Okay, yeah. Okay, so there. Hi everybody on YouTube. Good to see everybody tonight. I'm back from Portland, Smoky Portland. Came back from Smoky Portland, back up to Smoky Maple Valley in Kent. But yeah, just very regular exciting time at sports car racing as usual. Our notorious Datsun 510 1969 brand new rebuilt engine installed, and we did great on Saturday. Won first in class, and I can't remember, we might have got second or third overall, but come Sunday morning, as things started to develop, it was a late morning race for us. It was only going to be 15 minutes long, so that amounts to about 8 or 9, I guess maybe 10 laps at the most. Maybe, wait a minute, maybe 10, 11, 12, I don't recall. I just know how they position when they're done. However, it was, I think, one lap, about a lap in the end, right. The tail end of the second lap, we'd come right in off the track. I thought, oh, brothers, here we go again. Oh, my God. And, because I didn't see anything wrong, and evidently we noticed right away, or the driver noticed right away, a puff of smoke at one of the turns, and he could smell oil. So he brought her right in, and I'm glad he did. Found a oil leak between the oil pump and the motor, and then on top of that, there's a brake fluid leak all over the place. So that wasn't good either. So we're glad he brought it in. I'll go into how things turned out the rest of the day on the next round. K7ITX, back to net control.
ITX, sounds like you saved the motor. Let's go on to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Dick, sounds like they saved the day on the car there anyway. But congratulations on the first in class Saturday and second or third overall. That's really outstanding. Sounds like it's more than a hobby, sounds like it's a passion. Let's see. Nice day around here today. Rather gloomy all day, but it never got extraordinarily hot. Right now I'm showing 66 degrees at the house. It's just, it looks like it's going to rain at any minute, but the weather people say it's not going to. Let's see, not sure what's going on with all the ins and outs today. I'm in because my one-person entertainment committee has something else going on. Unfortunately, I'm not furnishing any video because she's using the computer with the camera. So anyway, I can see everyone okay. The picture on 1.2 gigahertz is just slightly down from what it normally is, but I have good color on everyone. Back to you, Dave, and 7QO.
7QO, we'll move right along to James, WU7N.
Well, thank you, Dave. Let me do an audio check here because I'm using 3-element antenna tonight. I see 2 thumbs up from Richard, so I must be coming through okay. Well, Richard, congratulations. First in class is always good. And I believe he's third overall against everybody, so that sounds very good. Brake fluid, burns is, whenever there's a saying, whenever there's brake fluid that you can see, you no longer have brakes. So I don't know. It's hopefully the reservoir holds on until you get it parked. But that was, I think, one of the first things I learned about cars actually was the brakes, and that's a good thing to start off on, I suppose. I still have this incredibly fancy gizmo that's supposed to bleed brakes, and I've never used it because I learned how to do it with just a piece of tube. tubing, and the kind of cars I have, you can just pump the brake and it just squirts it on through, and eventually, if you aim the tubing down into like a yogurt container, then the bubbles will stop forming in the tube, which means you've bled all the air out of the brake system. I'm not sure that works with all hydraulic brakes. It just happens to work on the two cars I do brake work on. I now have a Honda Civic, which is much more modern. I don't know if it'll work on that. I guess it's time to go to the source of all knowledge and wisdom about brakes, which of course is YouTube. Some guy, with a camera, and you totally believe what he says about it. But maybe also the Honda.com would have some comments on that. So, anyway, the other thing is, it sounds to me like Jim needs a second computer. It's hard for me to imagine a house with less than 5 computers in it. And even I can get 2 or more to work at the same time, of that pile. So I guess that's pretty good. I heard about something today called, I think it's called an EE32, which is a little microcontroller that apparently they're $3 each, and they even have Ethernet built into them. And you buy like a whole fistful of these things for $12, and then you can program to do microcontroller things. So a friend of mine I had lunch with today told me about these. So if anybody knows about them, be sure and chime in. But they're new to me, so I'll have to go look and see how these things work. Because how much cheaper can you get for a computer that can actually do something when you're down to $3 a piece? You really get the geek hall of fame if you can get a whole line of these things to parallel process and do the same thing that the computers we're all using tonight can do. So anyway, I'll pass it back to Dave, the net control. If there's only 4 of us on the net, I heard of an idea. It's called a proportional net, and that is the more people who log into the net, the longer the net goes. And the fewer the people that log into the net, the shorter the net goes. And of course, the only thing dickering about this is the exact algorithm of how much time, per person do you say this net is going to go on for before you say, okay, let's close it down. So that's something for you guys to think about. I'm open on the algorithm. So let me turn it back to Dave, KD7ZYM. This is WW7N in Northeast Bellevue.
WW7N, and for ID, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7ZYM. Well, my day has been sort of blasé. I've become sort of a couch potato today. I just wasn't feeling my finest, you might say. So, lounged around, did a bunch of reading, got on the internet, did a bunch of surfing, but nothing really exciting. Well, maybe for the city of Seattle, I had to pay my garbage bill, so I had to pen a check for that, but that was the most activity I had using hands anyway today. So, with the group that we have, let's see, Richard, congratulations on winning the trifecta, except you didn't get the second place, but that's pretty good. You got first and third. That's great. And that's pretty much what's happening. And for Jim, I was going to say, he can always get by saying he has a face for radio, and so there's no problem with being on the video side of this. That's about it. This is Dave, KD7ZYM. So let's go for another round and see how that works out. And if it doesn't, we'll wrap it up early this evening. This is Dave, KD7ZYM. So let's go back up to Richard, K7ITX.
Yeah, it was the Saturday. There was actually 3 races for us on Saturday, and they all turned out really good, except for, I always think it's more fun when we can get first overall, but when you have a Lotus that's, the motor isn't that big, but it's just like, it's about as small as a go-kart, and so the weight to displacement ratio, even though it somewhat pars out with us, he's hugely fast. I mean, he would, in fact, the way that our driver described the guy in the Lotus that just was practically going to lap everybody, you couldn't see him, or you couldn't see the car. The only thing you could see was the top of the guy's helmet. And you would be racing along, and all of a sudden, zoom, here comes this guy's head right alongside you, and then just zip right past you. So, it was pretty weird. And yeah, I mean, watching as a spectator, this Lotus is just, it's almost like he should have been in a different group from us, because he was just way, I mean, no one was going to touch him. So, anyway, so we did find the first 3 races. Obviously, we didn't get first overall, and we, by far, for sure, got first in class in all 3 races. But then, it was Sunday morning, like I said, we discovered these leaks. We were just about ready to put it in the trailer, and our driver, who / mechanic, says, let's see what we can do. And so he took the high pressure oil hose and the fittings, and then went to work and rebuilt that. And then in the meantime, he had me run down to there's a kind of a parts dealer at the track, so to speak. And what I went down to talk to him about and try to buy was it's called the brake bias valve. And the brake bias valve is what was leaking, not the actual brake itself. Brake bias valve controls the strength of the front brakes in relationship to the strength of the rear brakes. And you move this lever back and forth to have either more front or less or more rear, obviously. And the other thing about that is the bias for the front is controlled by a cable, where the bias for the rear is controlled by hydraulic brake fluid. The parts guy was out of the brake bias valve, so Josh proceeded to take ours apart and rebuild it as best he could, and got it functional. And one big problem, though, when you don't finish the last race you were in, you get to start in the back for the last race of the day. Josh, the driver, and good for me, because I love to watch an exciting event, and it truly was. First lap he passed, he was number 21 in the back, so first lap he passed 7 cars right off the bat. And then slowly but surely he worked his way up to where he eventually was second overall. But there was another car, a Porsche 911, that was really all over him and passed him in one spot. And so we let him by, and then when we had an opportunity to pass him, he just refused. He just blocked us. So anyway, we got third overall and first in class. So for a situation where we had to start last and we were about ready to give up anyway for the rest of the day, it turned out to be a really fun, happy, gratifying experience. That was all accomplished without any rear brakes. Maybe if we would have rear brakes, we might have got that second overall that I'm sure we would have. That was, not having any rear brakes really was a handicap. In fact, I saw us put a couple wheels off the track coming through the wide sweeper, which brought my Adam's apple up my throat. It's too pretty of a car. Really, I mean, it's a very looks. They love the way it performs on the track and can speed by everybody. You know, and who never, I mean, just about everybody sometime in their life had a sedan like this, you know, a Datsun or whatever. But, you know, just about, at least I know a lot of people did. How about the farmer? That, you know, we have written on our cars Amsoil, and it's a Datsun, of course, and this old farmer walks up to us, big guy, and he goes, in his, you know, country twang, announces to us that he's used Amsoil all his life, and he only drives a Datsun, and we're his favorite car today. So it's pretty cool. It was really fun. And then the kids, all the little kids. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see our car as a matchbox. They're taking pictures of it for stamping in the future. So that should be fun to see if that ever comes out. I'll have to get some if they do. K7ATS back to net control.
ITX, thanks for that. And again, for ID, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7ZYM. I'll take a break in case anybody else wants to check into the net. Hearing none, let's go on to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Well, Dick, Matchbox. I used to have some Matchbox cars, at least a couple of decades ago. Don't have a clue where they are. I suspect that they got maybe distributed to some other youngster who might put them to better use than what I could now. But yeah, that's a cool thought. Let's see, we're talking about brakes. Yeah, you know, when the fluid comes out, the brakes don't work too good. There are supposed to be two separate chambers, one for the front and one for the rear. But Jim, I have to agree with you. If you see fluid, I don't know why, but those rear brakes just don't work for beans. Funny how that works. And also I seem to have to keep adjusting the parking brake, the cable on that. I don't know why, but it stretches maybe it broke, I don't know, whatever. Okay, computers. Let's see here. Usually I don't buy a new one until my old one breaks beyond repair. Having said that, I did buy a new computer one day because I really needed a computer that had a USB port, and so I had to break down. And the old one, now that I think about it, that ought to be around here somewhere. Wonder if it works well. I don't know. Anyway, no clue where that is. Let's see, regarding the algorithm of the length of the net, I'm clueless on that. Reset. I do have a topic for discussion. I heard on the television today that there may be a strike of the railroad system come this weekend, I think Friday. About 30% of the freight that's moved around the country will be affected by that. So it's going to be food products, probably car parts. If they need anything for the car, Dick better stock up. I don't remember what else they said, but for the railroads to actually go on strike, they have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops. They don't fall under the National Labor Relations Board, like me, as an airline employee, they fall under what they call the Railway Labor Act, and so they really have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to be able to go on strike. So it suggests to me that either negotiations are not going at all well and are making some threats, or else they've already jumped through a bunch of hoops and it has been less than productive. I wish everyone luck. Also, they did say that the trains could affect trash being removed from the Pacific Northwest. Apparently, we put our trash on a train and ship it somewhere east of here. Go figure. Anyway, 87ZYM and 7QO.
7QO, let's go to James, WW7ATS.
All kinds of new things on this net. I did not know we shipped our trash out via rail. That's new on me. I didn't know that. I thought we had a landfill somewhere out in the eastern part of the county. But I wouldn't be surprised to hear anything. I mean, I think all of our sewage gets shipped off down somewhere far away from Bellevue. It's kind of amazing to think all that technology is used to move that. I also didn't know the railroad workers were under a different kind of strike law than everybody else. That's something else. I guess all my strike knowledge is with the aviation industry, so don't know anything about railroads on that. But, and also, it surprises me to hear, Richard, your description of the braking system on the kind of cars that you guys race. My vehicles have, independent 4 hydraulic lines, 2 front disc brakes, and 2 rear drum brakes, both the truck and the Camry. And then there's an independent linkage on the emergency brake that activates the same drum rear brakes, but obviously uses a cable instead of hydraulics. So that's kind of interesting that they, I wonder if there's an emergency brake on the race cars. Maybe there isn't. Maybe you just use the cable for just the activation of the rear drum brakes. Well, anyway, it's about half after the hour, so I'm open to, as long as you guys want to carry on here. This is James, WW7N in Northeast Bellevue. Take it away, Dave.
W7N. Well, I've got to say we got to give Richard a hand. He has provided us a lot of entertainment during the net this evening, so we have a lot of content going. And speaking of content, I've been watching television this afternoon. It was kind of interesting on the buy it only on TV ads. The new jargon is, because of the supply demand, we're only offering you 2 items that you can order at this time. So anyway, we don't know if we can supply you with any more. You're only able to buy 2 items because of the supply demand. So I thought this is neat marketing. We don't know how many thousands they have sitting on the shelf, but it's the old thing. We only have 1 left. You better order it now. So that's the strategy. I think they're using it to the limit for buying. I thought it was an interesting marketing tactic. And let's do a thumbs up if anybody wants to continue on another round or not. Hey, we're here to die. Let's go back up to Richard, K7ITX.
I put myself up because I had to clear up a couple questions. I'll start with the fact that what had failed in the sports car was the brake, rear and front brake bias valve. It's a little lever that's right there, right next to right next to the gear shift, pretty much, the stick shift. And so you're not really, you're not stopping the car or controlling. It doesn't really have anything to do with, well, what it does is it creates a bias. So if you want more front, you do something with you move the lever to get more front brake. If you want more rear brake, you put in the reverse direction. I'd be willing to bet that it has nothing to do with the actual operation of the brake itself. I think they both are probably hydraulic. I know that you've got a hydraulic situation with the rear brakes controlling the brake shoe, and then in the front, I'm sure that's hydraulic, obviously, controlling the brake caliper. So the whole problem with losing the rear brakes, I'm sure, was a function of the brake bias valve deciding it's totally in favor of the front and to heck with the rear brakes. So in the meantime, before the next race, trust me, that valve will be replaced, and I suspect we'll have a spare on hand, or at least the proper O-rings to fix it when the time comes. So let's see. Okay, and one other thing. Our landfill, I think for a long time, has been shipped to Central Oregon. I think, now I could be wrong about that, and maybe that has changed, but I know a lot of trash is in Central Oregon. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's a giant landfill situation, or at least there used to be. So I know that's where a lot of our trash is going for a long, long time. And then as far as the railroad strike is concerned, I heard some officials say that all rail traffic will stop in western Washington in the event of a strike. And in fact, Coast Starlight is now canceled for the duration. That's the Amtrak train that goes from here to LA. And what do they call that one? I don't know, the Great Northern, or anyway, the run that goes from Seattle to Chicago has also been canceled going forward now until this strike situation is resolved. So whether they're on strike now or not, the impact has started, and the only benefit I see will be not having to wait for train crossings, and in Kent, that's a big deal. Now we do have a couple new bridges, but downtown Kent is throttled by Sound Transit, and Sound Transit will not be functioning. K7ATS, back to net control.
ITX, thanks for that information. Let's go on to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Well, I don't really have anything else. Let's see, I heard the Artemis rocket is going to be postponed until, I forgot now. I want to say the 27th of this month. There's a window there, a short window, and then just a few days after that is a second opportunity. So they're trying to figure out when they might be able to get it launched. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Oh, we saw the SpaceX rocket. Something malfunctioned there, and capsule separated from the booster and landed safely back on the ground. That was kind of what went wrong there, but I don't know. K7ZYM and 7QO.
Let's go on to James, WU7M.
there is just one master brake cylinder, I'm pretty sure, on both vehicles. So I'm wondering, is there an adjustment? If there is, of course I'll have to tinker with it. That's probably why my car will, suddenly be pointing the wrong way going down the road one of these days. But I remember there was great controversy at one point in my life. They were trying to figure out how to rapidly turn a vehicle around. And I think the conclusion was the cheapest, easiest, fastest way to train someone is to have them actually stop the car and put it in reverse and then turn the wheel very sharply while applying the brakes. And that whips the vehicle around the opposite direction, 180 degrees, and then you can then accelerate away from the threat. The other way was to put on the emergency brake, which locks the two rear wheels, but the two front tires will still steer. The problem with that is if you steer very harshly with the rear tires locked, all the weight in most vehicles, unless it's a Volkswagen or something, is in the front of the vehicle. So you're pointing the direction you want to be 180 degrees the way you were before. However, you're now at a dead stop, which if you're trying to get away from something, that probably was not the best situation to be in. Hence, the other technique was the preferred technique. I'm wondering if you have an opinion on that. It was bad news to have the the Orion separate from the booster. I've watched a video by Scott Manley, who just puts out some really good rocket science videos on YouTube, and he was saying, though, that if you had been in that capsule, it would have been a very, very rough ride, because from the time the booster malfunctioned and the crew capsule separated, that would have been a very high G maneuver, and then because they were still pretty low in the atmosphere, as soon as that separation burned out, you would have had a very harsh deceleration, and then you would have had a pretty harsh deceleration, although they do have drag chutes on there, when the main chutes, which actually took quite a while to inflate. But the reason why they have the pretty big capsule boost separation burn on that is so that you could actually do that on the pad and still, come out with a pretty good chance of survival, but not saying you wouldn't have bruises where the straps were. It's too bad that happened, but it was also interesting to watch the slow motion. You could see the vehicle main booster sputtering, where debris got into the burn chamber, and you could actually see in slow motion, you could see that there was a problem developing there if you looked at it frame by frame. And also, I had no idea, this is how much I've gotten now for the last 2.5 years, I had no idea that sound transit caused regular traffic to stop at a crossing. I had no idea that happened. I thought I saw all the huge overhead stuff they were building for that debacle in the SeaTac area, and it was all overhead. So I assumed that it was all like an overhead kind of thing, but I guess there's places where it does stop the traffic. I'll have to go look for that. The only train I was aware that stopped traffic in Kent was the dinner train until it stopped running, because that one actually did crossings. I remember that one, but now I guess Sound Transit has taken the place for stopping traffic. Well, with that, this is WW7ATS Whiskey Uniform 7 November, back to our net control KD7ZYM.
WU7N, James, thanks for that. Well, I was saying with this railroad strike, I guess the Sounders train probably will be stopped in this area that goes through this area. And the other thing is, light rail, I don't think has a railroad type contract. I'm not sure with that, but they have their own tracks. But with light rail, it does stop traffic at crossings, so that's another item that they do. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I guess at this point, your option is to drive, take a plane, or stay home. So those are the options at this point for out-of-state transportation. Sad to see that the railroads are going to go down, but hopefully they'll be back. But they were saying a $2 billion a day loss to the economy with the railroads down, and it's just like, man, our economy is like going down so fast, and grocery prices are going up so fast, I don't know how they're going to restock shelves with equipment. So it'll be interesting to see what develops out of that. So this is Dave, KD7CYM, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society met on the 08 machine for an ID. So let's go back up to Richard, K7 to IATX.
Anything to add except to thank Dave for straightening out everything I tried to explain regarding sound transit and the strike. So he hit the nail on the head. It's not the light rail, it's the actual, whatever you called it. It's not sound transit, but whatever they call the train, the sounder, there you go, that takes people between Tacoma to Seattle, wherever, to Seattle. And then as far as light rail is concerned, yeah, Dave, in fact, it will be very interesting because I think the strike involved the signalmen and all those guys. And if you don't have signalmen or people orchestrating traffic on the tracks, how in the heck can you control the railroad crossings for light rail that has to have help getting through the streets, particularly down there, the International District, where the stadiums are and stuff like that. They clearly, I've been stuck in traffic before. And, James? We have more than light rail or anything like that going through downtown Kent. We've got huge freight trains. 100-car trains go through downtown Kent. Maybe not 100, but certainly 30, 40, 50. It's not unusual to have to be stuck in a traffic jam by the King County Regional Justice Center. Huge traffic jams there, as it might take a train to clear a path in that area. It might take them 10 or 15 minutes. So add freight, add Amtrak, and the sounder. We know all about railroads going through the city. And let's see, what was it that I wanted to pick up on? The dinner train, that didn't go through Kent. That went through Renton. Yes. I remember that one too. I always wanted to go on it because, I've been stopped watching it go, and people on it look like they're having such a nice time. Trains going nice and slow and smooth. They don't have a care in the world. I don't know. It looked like the Orient Express, actually. It looked pretty neat. So, anyway, so I had to clear the record on that. But other than that, I don't have anything to talk about. So, it's amazing what comes into your mind when you don't have anything to talk about. So, alright, well, that's it for me. So I'll just say 73 in case that's the last time. K7ITX.
ITX, let's go to Jim, N7QO. No trains going to his airport.
N7QO. Thanks, Dave. Well, actually, there are some trains that come pretty close to here. And in fact, 100 plus car trains full of freight. Maybe like half a mile or so from the house, and yeah, they definitely slow things down at times. But closer to Dix, yeah, through the Kent Valley. Lots of trains going through there. That was interesting. Let's see. Jim, you were talking about rapidly turning vehicles around. This is maybe not exactly that, but it reminded me, in my youth, I was looking at building a dune buggy. It was going to be on a Volkswagen platform, essentially. And there's a modification out there so that you can control the cable-operated rear brakes, control them independently. There's a lever that you can pull up between the seats, one for the left rear and one for the right rear. And what that would do for you, the intent was not so much to do a rapid turnaround, but if you, it does not have a positive traction rear end, just has the standard differential. So if one wheel gets stuck in the sand or something, just apply the brake to that wheel. Let me reset. And maybe the other wheel would get you going. So that I thought that was kind of interesting. That just reminded me of something that I hadn't thought about for decades. But that might make for a, well, I don't know. The rear brakes never seem to work all that well for me. What can I say? That's all I managed to write down here. Okay, back to you, Dave, and 7QO.
QO, let's go to James, WW7N.
On the dune buggy, it would seem to me you'd have to have a fluid clutch on the back then, or some kind of a fluid differential, because if it's just a straight gear differential off a drive shaft, that would turn both wheels, even if the brake was applied to it, so you just heat up the brake. But if you had something that slipped, and maybe regular differentials do this, but if you had something that slipped, then you could get one wheel to stop turning as fast as the other rear wheel. I don't think my truck would work that way, though. I don't. Yeah, you got me curious enough to go look at what's inside the differential on the truck. Thank you guys. I had no idea all these. I guess there's different rail systems. There's the sounder. There's light rail on its own tracks, and then there's the freight trains. I did get some video. Unfortunately, it's on another computer, but I got video several years ago of the never-ending tanker car trains that just go on forever and ever and ever. And they're the famous tanker car trains that have not only the oil in them, but because of the type of oil in it, I believe it was benzene that was in those tanks. But you don't want them to tip over. You definitely don't want one of those things to break open. And that was of some concern in the area, actually, where I was taking the video of some of the local people going, wow, what's the plan here? Because you're certainly, with that many people around where the tracks are, you're not all going to get up and run at the same time. There's no place to go. The roads wouldn't handle it. So I don't know what they ever decided to do with those things. But I think maybe that was a solving problem, or at least temporarily solved, because I think that oil came from fracking. And so if they're not doing as much fracking, maybe they don't have those trains going forever and ever. But they were really impressive. I actually showed the video to one person when I first took it, and they asked me if it was trick photography. I go, no, it really was that long. It really did go on for that long. So anyway, with that, looks like we're rapidly running out of time here. This is James, WU7N in Northeast Bellevue, KD7ZYM. Take it away.
James, WU7N. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7ZYM. And thinking of some positive things with a railroad strike going on. One, there won't be a lot of accidents involving trains. That's a positive thing. The other positive thing, you won't have to be waiting for those 100-car trains to go by at a crossing, so surface traffic can move along at a little faster pace. So that's about the only thing I can think of the positive thing. And then pollution from the engines running on diesel, polluting the air, that'll be stopped and cut back, so a lot of less hydrocarbons in the air. So we'll have to see. Those are pretty minor things to happen, and we do need that traffic to go. This is Dave, KD7CYM. Let's move back up to the top to Richard. I think we got time for another round. K7ITX.
Okay, well, what the heck? I was pretty much ran out of things to say. So really about the only thing, well, like the shirt I have on, and of course I was thinking of the Seattle Mariners had another victory today. It's kind of fun. The last couple teams they played against are teams that we don't see them play hardly ever. One would be the Atlanta Braves, which they beat the Braves 2 out of 3 games. So and Atlanta Braves were world champions last year, World Series champions. And then they had 2 games with the San Diego Padres here at home. They didn't win both games, but they won a really big game today. So they split that, and so they're still they still are listed as a playoff team. Now whether they can hold on to it just depends. I've seen them be this close before. I don't remember them actually being in the slot for the playoffs at this point in quite a few decades, but even if you're in the slot and you go on a 10-game losing streak and the other guy below you goes on a 10-game winning streak, I guarantee you, you're not going to be in the slot anymore. But gee whiz, it's whether they get in or not, I almost don't even care, just because they've been just so fun and entertaining the last 2 or 3 months. And then I'm about to be defeated by my sister. Last year I was, so proud that I was able to, win this beautiful trophy that she had, because of being the champion of the Fantasy Baseball League last year. She had to make this for me. Well, and so if I would have won, I'd get another baseball that would attach to the bottom of this. Well, I don't think I am. She's going to get to make one for herself, I'm afraid. Except this is just the first round. So first round, then there's a second, and then there's the, I think, maybe the championship or something like that. So we'll see how I don't know. I mean, I've got 4 games to go. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'm probably down by 100 points. If I could just pick up one big day of 75 and another 52. I could. It is possible. It is, but she is where she is because she's got a great team. I, of course, like an idiot, have Seattle Mariners, and not that they're a bad team, but they don't do very much. They win games by 2-1 or 2-0. No, you need baseball players that get lots of home runs all the time, and she's got them right now. So, 73, everybody. K7ITX, back to net control.
ITX, thanks for joining the net this evening. Let's go on to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Well, Dick, good luck with that. We'll keep our fingers crossed for you. Yeah, that's good. And my wife and I also watched the Seahawks win, whenever it was. Must have been Monday. I don't know, whenever it was, we watched that. We were thinking, yeah, poor Russell's probably disappointed, but we're happy that the Seahawks won anyway. Let's see. I guess that's about all I've got. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
QO, let's go on to James, WU7N.
I'll say thank you very much to everyone who joined the net tonight and participated in it. I really appreciate you guys chatting with me for the last hour. Learned something. That's always a good thing. Richard, I wish you the best of luck in getting that car repaired. And I hope for the sake of our economy, the railroad strike doesn't last very long. I hope they come to some sort of a compromise, because we really don't need that. But, it's always interesting, Dave, to hear what would be good about it. There's always something that would be good pulled out of anything, I suppose. This is James, WU7N in Northeast Bellevue, saying good night.
7N, thanks for that. Well, I'm thinking back to Richard with that trophy he has. You can just make it a rotating trophy. So all you'd have to do is put the one you have in a box, put a postage stamp on it, and forward it to your sister, and then wait till next year till you win it back. So that's one way of handling that. Well, with that, I've kind of run out of things, and I think our net has run out. So I'm going to close off the net a little bit early this evening. This is Dave, KD7CYM, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. We'd like to thank the owners and operators of the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR repeater, referred to as the 08 machine at 147.08 with a tone of 103.5. So on behalf of the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, this is Dave, KD7CYM, signing off the net at 8:58. Good evening all.